Sony, or better way to put it, Sony Interactive is a Japanese company that makes games. They have a game subsidiary, they have a music subsidiary, they have a lot of different subsidiaries. Gonna be honest, they do. My issue with Sony is, and it's not sensitive at all, it's the fact that Michael Jackson was part of the music publishing side of Sony. He owned 50% of Sony Music Productions. When he left, he still owned 50% of it because he owned the Beatles catalog and the Elvis catalog of music. Sony refused to ever actually help on his most expensive album they ever produced with Michael Jackson. This resulted in Michael Jackson having to pay upward to millions in debt. It resulted in him, which resulted in him going into a drug addiction, resulted him going into debt, resulted in him going into court for various things, and then the Sony lawyers also pushed Michael Jackson into settling the cases that have him labeled as a pedophile. I defend Michael Jackson on the case that Michael Jackson is not a pedophile because California has 2 state laws that make it to where any evidence of pedophilia could have been used against him in every case going to court. None to zero evidence of pedophilia was ever brought against Michael Jackson in any court case. Yet he was labeled as a pedophile, which resulted in him going into even more drug addiction because the world was actively against this man. What also happened is when this man died, Sony actively picked at his corpse the very moment this man was dead. They went after his estate so they could buy up the Elvis and the Beatles catalog alongside his own music catalog so they could bastardize it and use it for their own active good and active benefit. Not for what Michael Jackson wanted to do, which is to preserve the music of Elvis and preserve the music of the Beatles. I'm not even a fan of the Beatles, but I'm happy for what Michael Jackson did with the Beatles catalog. He preserved it. He didn't make it to where it was so expensive it was extremely difficult to obtain. Anyone could buy it for a reasonable price. Now that Sony owns it, now that Sony owns the Elvis catalog, now that Sony owns the Michael Jackson catalog, it's so stupidly priced that if you want to buy it, I'm not joking, you have to pay upwards to a few $100s just for the Michael Jackson catalog, a few $100s for the Elvis catalog, and a few $100s for the Beatles catalog. I hate this company with a burning passion because a man is dead because of it. He was in a drug addiction because of it. He was labeled a pedophile because of it. They ruined a man's legacy, and that man was Elvis, and they ruined a few men's legacy, and that's the Beatles' legacy. I'm not even a fan of the Beatles, yet they ruined their legacy, and I'm mad about it.